I want to preface this video with a message. The following video may include mature situations, stories of the paranormal, the occult, or what some may consider disturbing or offensive. Viewer discretion is advised. Have you ever had one of your pets stare at a blank space on the wall or stare up to the ceiling? Did it freak you out? Because it freaked me out. My cat did that once, and right away my mind goes to something paranormal. As I approached the wall, I noticed there was a tiny gnat buzzing around. That's why my cat was staring at the wall. But for Abby, that is not the case. I am going to share with you a real story from true events that happened to a real person. Now, whether you believe that or not, it is up to you. I am going to share a subscriber story time, and for privacy reasons, we're going to call her Abby. Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Just Angelica J. I'm Angelica. So today's story is from Abby, my subscriber, and it begins in her kitchen. You see, Abby and her boyfriend just moved into a new apartment, and it was within the first week she noticed that her pet dog would bark in the kitchen. And at first she thought he needs to go for a walk, or maybe he wants a treat, maybe he sees something, he's in the kitchen always barking in the same spot, and she would just dismiss it as something random her dog would do. It was a new apartment. But by the second week she noticed, okay, this was beginning to sort of get on their nerves. The dog was being very disruptive. So she would go into the kitchen, and she said it was this particular spot. And she realized it was always cold in this spot. And I want to preface this by saying, Abby goes on to write in this email that she's always been hypersensitive. The women in her family have been very sensitive to things when it comes to maybe spirits or just bad vibes, good vibes, just very sensitive to energies and spiritual things. So right away, Abby thinks she needs to sage her new apartment. A lot of people do believe in cleansing spaces with sage. It is a practice for some people that believe in certain things, whether it be religion or just culturally. And this is exactly what Abby does. So she and her boyfriend decide to kind of go through this cleansing, saging, burning sage through the apartment. And as she goes through the apartment, she's saging, she's going room to room. She and her boyfriend are reciting the Lord's Prayer with the cleansing with the burning sage. And she saves the cold spot in the kitchen where her dog would always bark and sit for last. So as she approaches the cold spot, she's waving the sage around. She and her boyfriend are still reciting their prayer. But this moment, she felt like her words were jumbled. It was like her brain could not keep up with what they were saying. So obviously her boyfriend notices this and he asks, "Are you okay?" But Abby didn't hear him. She was too focused on this strange sensation. And then suddenly, as she gets closer to this like cold spot in the kitchen, she instantly feels this chill down her spine. It was like a cold hand on her shoulder or touching her back. Then she felt this presence enter her body. And in her email, she says, "It was like I was in someone else's body, an old woman." And as she looked around the room, she could see her boyfriend, she could see her dog, she could see she was in the kitchen, but she felt as if she was looking through someone else's eyes. She was terrified. She kept feeling that she was slipping in and out of consciousness. It's what she felt. But at the time, her boyfriend didn't notice. So I'm assuming outwardly, it's this internal, spiritual, strange, paranormal thing that her body's going through, but outwardly, maybe she wasn't showing that. So after the cleansing, Abby started to feel very fatigued. Her boyfriend started to notice that she looked very tired, so he suggested that he would draw her a hot shower. And he also noticed that she was kind of having a hard time walking. So he just assumed maybe she's coming down with something. Let me assist her to the bathroom. So he grabbed her and they both walked into the bathroom. He turned on the hot shower and he proceeded to sort of help undress her. When he started to remove her clothing, she kind of clutched her clothing and she just was shocked. She sees that it's her boyfriend, but the sensation that basically the stranger was undressing her. So she held tight onto her clothes, and he was just a little bit taken aback. So he just thought, well, maybe she's being coy and just playful. So he tried to go along with it, but then he looked into her eyes and he realized that was real fear in her eyes. So that was something strange that he noticed, but he just thought, well, maybe she's just not right. Maybe she's not feeling well. At the time, he didn't think anything paranormal. He was just thinking she's not feeling well. Maybe she's just moody. She's tired. So he left her there. She just kind of held onto her clothes and said, I can do it. So he left. He closed the door behind him. And this is where things get really strange for Abby. So as Abby starts to shower, she says that she felt like even her hands touching her body felt like that of a stranger. It was just this strange sensation that even though she knows it's her hands, she knows she's in her shower, it was just not her. It was very, very strange. So she proceeds with her shower, just a strange experience. She dresses herself and decides to go to bed early. So she lays down. Eventually her boyfriend goes to bed. It was around 2 a.m. Abby jolts out of sleeping or this nightmare, and she's gasping for air, and it freaks her out. She is terrified. And I'm going to quote what she wrote me in the email. She states, as she jolted out of bed, she was crying uncontrollably, and she said, repeating, she got me. The old lady got me. I believe what Abby meant by that, and what she goes on to detail, is that she felt this woman just possess her, that her spirit just went into. So she jolted out of bed and she runs to the mirror. And as she focuses on her face, she sees that it's pale, it's old. Abby realizes she was looking at the face of the old woman that possessed her. She suddenly felt just extra weak and tired and old. She felt just aged in that moment, where she couldn't even just lift her arms. Her hands felt very arthritic. She just felt like a very aged old woman. And it was terrifying. And she says after the mirror incident, when she sees this, it was a blur. And the next thing she knew, she was waking up in her bed, and it was the next morning, and she felt normal again. And so she quickly sits up out of bed. She wakes up her boyfriend, and she immediately tells him everything that happened to her during the sage cleansing and after, when she took a shower, when she woke up at 2 a.m. And it was literally the most terrifying thing that she's ever experienced. This incident happened over 10 years ago. I am going to read my response to Abby's initial email because I had questions for her, because I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I know I did. So this is what Abby wrote in her initial email. I've always been hypersensitive to spirits and whatnot. My dreams are always on point. Whatever I receive in a dream, you can bank on it coming true. I'm living proof of experiencing many unexplained things and situations. Since then, I have been able to set up boundaries. The old woman's spirit is still there, but she now has rules. And whenever I say stop, I mean it. And this is what Abby said. I come from a long line of women who were sensitive to one thing or another in the spirit world. What I did was very stupid because I didn't do my homework. I don't recommend for anyone to do it without preparing oneself both spiritually, according to one's faith, and also getting the right tools like stones to protect yourself. I will forever be grateful for the experience because I matured a lot in a spiritual way. So that is a lot. When I read that, I'm like, okay. So these are the questions that I asked. Does the old woman's spirit still possess you? And I'm going to be honest here. And Abby, if you are watching this, I didn't put this in the email, but I'm going to be completely honest. When I was responding to Abby's email, I actually questioned, is the old woman in charge? Like, after reading her initial email, her story, I thought, am I emailing someone that is actually possessed? Am I going to get the answers? Like, it kind of was just like a little alarming, this story. So again, I'm going to run through the series of questions that I asked. Does the old woman's spirit still possess you? If so, how does it happen? Have you sought help to rid of her presence? Have you researched who she may be or if she needs help? Are you sure you know what type of paranormal entity this is? What steps would you advise people to take when cleansing their home? What advice do you have for people to protect themselves against possession? This was her response. The woman has not possessed my body again. I have not asked for any help out of fear of being judged or have it used against me. We are living in times where people are unusually cruel, and I also have my family and job to protect. No, I have not done any research. I don't want to even know her name. I feel like if I start probing whatever it is, it will take it as an invitation to speak to me. Abby goes on to say that she has also heard a childlike voice say mommy, clear as day. She says, I've heard it before in the same area, and she thought it was one of her kids messing with her, but nope, she does not engage in conversation or look for it. And Abby goes on to say, I do not know who or what it is. I am in no position to take something like this on. I was not prepared for the sage cleansing. I thought the sage and reading from the Bible would be all to take care of whatever was in the kitchen, but it wasn't. And she does not recommend for anyone to try to get rid of spirits or entities from their homes alone. These things must be done along with someone who knows what they are doing. And Abby goes on to say that she has made it very clear to whatever this entity is that it is her home and that only God has power there. She says little things have happened daily, but nothing like the day when she tried to get rid of it. And she goes on to say, hopefully this helps someone who may be going through the same situation. Okay, here's my thoughts on this. And by no means am I a professional at any of this. I am just someone who just comes across stories and just goes, wow, that was spooky. But I also had another subscriber reach out to me, and I'll probably get into that story time in another video. But in their email message, the person that I'm talking about, my other subscriber, said that they are the type of person that actually does a lot of these cleansing and actually cleans up after ghost hunters. And probably next week we will get into that subscriber's story and background. But it just reminds me of that email. When I received this email, it reminds me of the other subscriber who actually deals with lost souls and doing, spiritual rites and just cleanses and things like that. So I have a question for any of you out there watching this video that actually knows about this. How would you go about helping Abby? Or how would Abby help herself? Because she sent me this email, this very fascinating, extraordinary story. And essentially from her email, this entity or spirit is still there. The fact that Abby says that she has had to set up rules with this entity kind of has me like, okay. So she clearly is still dealing with this. And again, I am not an expert, but I think we can all agree that we have seen how sometimes these entities escalate into more sinister things. And also stemming from my other subscribers' email, they went on to say that if it's ghosts or spirits, they can sense that sometimes people who pass on do get lost. Sometimes they do go to a place that feels like hopelessness, and maybe some of you would call that purgatory. It just depends on what your religion is or what your faith allows you to believe. I don't know. And so sometimes these certain types of like maybe rituals or rites have to be done for a soul to pass on, to go to where it needs to go. I don't know if that's what this is, but comment down below. What do you think is going on in Abby's situation? And I'm even curious, literally, who do you call? I'm not trying to make up a Ghostbusters pun, but we are living in a time where there are people that know how to deal with these situations. They are professionals. They know what people are dealing with, whether it be haunting, you know, a paranormal entity, an ill spirit, something more sinister. I just feel like maybe it's not the spirit of an old woman that Abby is essentially experiencing. It could be something else. I don't know. I can trust by her email that she knows what she's dealing with and she's in control of it. But at the same time, this happened over 10 years ago. And this email was sent to me last month. So by all accounts, Abby is still in the presence of something in her home. So that is today's story time. I still have a lot of questions, but at the end of the day, Abby, if you are watching, I definitely wish you the best. I hope you stay safe, and I definitely hope that you continue to stay in charge of yourself and your home and stay protected. Okay, so that's the video. Again, any suggestions, comment down below. And if you have stories or things that you have experienced, whether it be paranormal, strange situations in everyday life, whether it be relationships, paranormal, something creepy or spooky, or something just outrageous, like, I don't know, maybe falling off the side of the freeway the way I did, be sure to email me and I will put that email in the description below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.